What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I want to talk to you about X-Men Red Volume 1, The Hate Machine. This is written by Tom Taylor with art by Mahmoud Asrar and Pascal Alix. This collects the first 5 issues of the X-Men Red series and the first annual. And this follows the events of what happens after Jean Grey is resurrected in the Phoenix Resurrection miniseries. And she sees that the world is very different than how it was before she died, which was way back at the tail end of Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. And she is not content to let the world stay the way that it is. She does not like the status quo, and she wants to change the status quo. And so she kind of unofficially puts together a team to help her change the world. And I really like some of the stuff going on in this book, but a lot of it I feel like could have been done a little better. I feel like almost every time we get a brand new X-Men series, whoever is doing it feels the need to set out a mission statement for why you should buy this X-Men book when we already have 25 other X-Men books coming out. And most of the time whenever they do that, I feel like the mission statement kind of gets lost in the shuffle. For example, Joss Whedon and John Cassaday's Astonishing X-Men starts with Cyclops telling the team that they have to act like superheroes again, and then after they fight one monster, that mission statement kind of goes away and it goes back to being just a normal X-Men book. I feel like a lot of times the mission statement that they give, this is what's different about this X-Men book versus all the others, kind of goes away and it just goes back to being an X-Men book. I don't really feel like we have to have a mission statement whenever we get a new X-Men book. People who like the X-Men are going to buy this book, and if you make it look interesting, people who don't normally read the X-Men, they might give it a shot. If they're interested in this team, they might go ahead and read this book. You've got some interesting character dynamics here that I would not have thought to have put some of these characters together, and I think it works well, and it could potentially be very interesting to see some of these character interactions in future stories. Right now, this volume is mostly about Jean, and I imagine most of the series will continue to mostly be about Jean, with all these other characters kind of playing second fiddle to her, and that's fine, but I am looking forward to some of the classic character interactions, like back in the 80s, you had a very deep friendship between Storm and Jean, or Kitty and Storm, or Kitty and Logan, or Logan and Nightcrawler, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of that here between some of these other characters, like Honey Badger and Nightcrawler, for example. I'd love to see these two interact and kind of get to see some interesting interactions there, which we don't get a whole lot of here. Mostly, all these characters are just interacting with Jean, although we do get one really funny moment where Gambit and Honey Badger meet again, and I've never seen the character Honey Badger. I don't read a lot of solo Wolverine. I believe she was introduced in one of Laura's series within the last few years, but Jean says, "Oh, you two know each other?" And Honey Badger says, "Yeah, he tried to blow me up." And Gambit says, "For strategic purposes," and I thought that was really funny. But anyway, this book, the mission statement that they try to have that sets this one apart from all the other X-Men books is that Jean wants to save the world and make it a safe place for mutants. And that's what the X-Men is. That's what the X-Men has always been about. And you could try and make this interesting by having Jean have specific ideas for how she wants to make the world a safe place for mutants. But unfortunately, we don't really get to see a lot of those specific ideas. At one point, she goes before the World Council to say that mutants should be treated like a nation. And then one person says that mutants are a species, not a nation. And she says, if we're going to be treated as one entity, then we need to speak as one entity. We need to come before you as one entity. I like that idea quite a bit. Unfortunately, after that, we don't have any specifics on how Jean wants to make the world a better place. She shares her vision with Nightcrawler, and it moves him to tears, but we don't get to see what it is. Nightcrawler does, but we don't. And he wears his heart on his sleeve anyway, so, you know, he might cry at a Pop-Tart commercial. So we don't really know what it is that's making him say, this is really beautiful and I want to be a part of it. He's an X-Man. Of course he's going to be a part of X-Men trying to make the world safe for mutants. So I don't really think that this book has as strong of a mission statement as it thinks that it has. And that's not necessarily me decrying this book. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here that could be better over time. But I think as a first outing, this book isn't great. I think that it's pretty good, but I don't think that it's as good as I wanted it to be. I was really looking forward to this, especially with the news that X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue are both ending, which I haven't gotten caught up on either of those books. I've read a few volumes from them, but I was really wanting to see another ongoing X-Men series, and we've got one, and I think it's okay, but I don't think that it's as amazing as I was really wanting it to be. I really do like that adult Jean Grey is back. It's been a while since we've seen her. We did get teenage Jean Grey for the last about 6 years or so, but we haven't seen this version of Jean Grey since 2004. So it's been a little while, and I was kind of amazed, I guess is the word, whenever Jean was talking to some of the X-Men in the annual here, and Kitty mentions that she phased a giant space bullet through the planet, and Jean was saying, "I'm sorry I missed that." I'm thinking, wow, that was a really long time ago. That was at the end of Joss Whedon's run, and I'm surprised that Jean missed as much as she did, and sometimes it takes me aback how much has happened in the X-Men comics, in comics in general, since 2004. But I really like that Jean is back. I like a lot of her interactions with some of these characters. Like I said, I would really like for this to be a little bit more of a team book where we can see interactions between some of these other characters with each other, and maybe we'll get more of that in later volumes. I really like the idea for the bad guy here, although I have no idea where this bad guy has been all this time. Again, I'm not going to mention who the bad guy is. I want to leave that a surprise in case you want to read this book. But I think this book is alright. It didn't wow me as much as some of the other X-Men books, like X-Men Blue Volume 1, I think is a little better than this, and I would even say X-Men Gold Volume 1. I was a little underwhelmed by that, but I think it had better character interactions there than this book does here. But this book, in a lot of ways, it feels like it's a been there, done that kind of thing. Like I said, Jean acts like she's got this really amazing idea that no one's ever thought of before, and it comes down to the premise of the X-Men for the last 50 years. One of the major antagonists of this book is Sentinels. They spend almost every issue of this book fighting Sentinels, and they're acting like it's a new and inventive, innovative way that we've never seen Sentinels done before, and they're talking about how it's human beings mixed with Sentinel technology. And I'm sitting there saying, we've seen this before. Back in the mid-2000s, after Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men, Chris Claremont was doing the Excalibur series set on Genosha with Professor Xavier and Magneto, and the Omega Sentinels, they were cyborgs. They were human beings with Sentinel technology programmed into them. And that's kind of what this book is doing. It's different. You've got a nano Sentinel in someone's brain controlling them, but it's still a human being with Sentinel technology powering them. We've seen nano Sentinels before in Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men. So a lot of this book, I think it feels like it's more innovative than what it actually is, but I'm still going to keep reading. I think this is a pretty okay start, but it's not as awesome as I wanted it to be. So those are my thoughts on X-Men Red, The Hate Machine. I will continue to read, and I hope you guys will check this out. In the meantime, I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back sometime in the future with another video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.